In this video I will show you how to publish a .NET Core API in Azure Web App. There are a lot of videos on the internet that show how you can publish your application from Visual Studio directly into Web App. That is not the proper professional way to do it. What we will do is we will create a DevOps project, create a Git repository, create pipelines and use the pipelines in the proper way to deploy your application. First we create a new project. We use ASP.NET Core. Next, then we give it a name. We use the API. We don't use configure for HTTPS. We do it not, it is not necessary for now. We create the API. And here we are. We can build the project. And the default API gives us a JSON with value 1 and value 2. Most videos tells you that you should select publish, and from publish you will create a web app in Azure. That is not how we will do that. First we will create an Azure Web App in the Azure console. Select Instruction UK as our resource group. And here we add a new resource, a web app. We create a web app, give it a name. We select .NET Core 2.2, location, North Europe. This is important. The standard is S1 and they will charge you for this setting. So we change it. Here you see S1 costs you about 60 euros a month and we do not want that. So we take the free version. Review and create. Create. And the deployment of our web app will kick off. In the meantime, I go to the Azure DevOps environment. I create a new project. I call it Dunkers API. We keep it private. We create a project. And here we have all we need. The repos. As you can see, there are no repos now, still empty, and the pipelines that we will build. So first we go back to our application, our Visual Studio application, and we will add the whole project to Git. This is the local repository. So now a local repository has been created and we want to connect this to the remote repository on Azure DevOps. So we select publish on Git, on remote Git. This is important because here we have an advanced link and we do need that because otherwise the whole thing is created in the wrong project. We want to create the repository in the Dunkers API project. So now we publish the repository. So now we go back to our DevOps environment and we will see the repo is there. And as you can see, we have the master branch created. We stick to the model, the merge model of Mr. Driessen, and Mr. Driessen said, okay, you should have two branches that will be always there. That is develop and master. These are the only two that stay with you as long as the project exists. From there, from the develop, you will create feature branches. You make your changes and your features. You create your features on these branches, merge them in develop, and develop is merged into the master. We will use tags to define the releases. Okay, let's begin. A new branch, we create a new branch, develop based on the master. And we will create the pipelines. We need two pipelines, build pipelines, and we use the classic editor. First, we will build the develop pipeline. And we select here ASP.NET Core template. We have here the different steps. The restore, collect all the NuGet packages. The build builds the project, and we have a test phase and the publish artifact. The artifact is the result of the build. So we call this pipeline develop. And we trigger it whenever a change is made to the develop branch in our repository. We save the project, look here at pipelines, we have develop, and we will also create a new pipeline. Same procedure. Now we select the branch as our source. We use the core template and we call this one release. And we save the pipeline. So we have now two pipelines, a release and a develop. I forgot one thing. Let's edit it, the trigger. The very moment that we make a change or a merge into the master, the build is kicked off. We save the pipeline, so we have two pipelines, and now we will add the latest pipeline, that is the release pipeline. It will be Azure App. You can also choose another platform to deploy your code on. For example, IIS or whatever. So you are not stuck to Azure, but we choose Azure as our platform. So here we select the steps we do. We choose the pay-as-you-go model, we authorize it. It takes a little time before it is authorized. This one, sometimes it doesn't show up, sometimes it shows up. It has some problems, but maybe if you refresh your page, it will work. As you see, no result yet. And here we have what we are looking for, Dunkers API. That was our Azure Web App we created a couple of minutes before. We save our settings. Here, now we have the step how and where we should deploy our code, but first now we have to select our code. That is called artefact. We want the release at the trigger. We have to connect the trigger, and we do continuous deployment trigger. Whenever a new package is built by the release pipeline, it will be deployed on Azure Web App. Then we have save everything. So we have two build pipelines and one release pipeline. We have two branches connected with these pipelines. Now we will make a change in our code. Let's suppose we want to change the text. We create a new branch based on the develop branch. And we call it feature. and text 2. Create the branch, and we have here a text 2 branch. Now we go back to our Visual Studio. We go to branches, and as you see, it's not yet there. So we first have to sync to pull the latest changes. We pull the latest changes. Go back to our branches, and here we have our feature branch. Now we change the text in our controller, and we call it value release 2. We go back to our Theme Explorer, select changes, release 2, commit all, and the changes are updated in our local repository. Now we sync the whole thing to our remote repository. Go back to our remote repository. And here we have value release 2. So we are happy with the new feature, and we're gonna deploy it first in the develop branch. We select a new pull request. We want to have it in the develop branch. We create the pull request. The pull request is created. And then we select the pull request and complete or approve it. We complete the merge. The merge is now pushed into the develop branch, and the pipeline for develop is kicked off. And you see the pipeline has created a build package. Click on this, look at summary. Here the package, the create package, is stored, and we can download it as we like to have it on our own computer. So everybody's happy, and let's now decide that we will release this package. Go back to the branches. If we merge the develop in the master, then the master will immediately release this version of the application. We do a new pull request, develop, release 2, create a pull request. We see here the pull request, select the pull request. We complete the pull request. We do not want to delete the develop branch. Complete the merge. Go to pipelines, and we see here the release is kicked off immediately. Another very important thing to do is to create a tag. With the tag we define the release moment of the master. So if during the deployment we find a bug that has to be fixed, or we have to go to another release, previous release, we always can go there using the tags. We call it release 2. We give it a text, release on July 2019, this 27 July of 2019, underscore necessary create. So if we want to go back to do this release, to the branch that belongs to this release, we can do that with the help of the tags. I show you, for example, if you want to create a new branch, and let's call it hotfix, you can select here tags, select release, and then you get the copy of the released version. We don't do that now, but if you need it, this is the way to do it. So do not create all kinds of release branches. Keep it like this and use the tags for it. Let's see how the release is going. The release has finished, and if you go back to the web of the Azure Web App, you will see that we've got what we need. Here we click on the URL. We select API values, and here we have the released application in Azure. So this is the way how you should deploy a web app of an API on web app. Don't use Visual Studio Publish, use GitHub, use pipelines, and do it the professional way.